Hello everyone, this is Tom Snarski, one of the co-organizers of Performance Anxiety. Due to a couple of technical difficulties, unfortunately we lost the beginning of the recording of tonight's reading, but I'm just going to very quickly go through the intro again here and then splice in a recording that Rosebud Ben-Oni was kind enough to share with us, since she was our first reader and her reading was the only one affected. So I'm very sorry to Rosebud, but thank you so much for contributing that recording, and I'm just going to jump into the intro and then you'll be able to hear some amazing poems and discussion tonight. So hello everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 12th online reading event, the Social Edition. My name is Tom Snarski, and I'm happy to be the MC and, for the first time, facilitator of tonight's reading. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, usually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. For now, we're working on a weekly schedule, so our next reading will actually be next Thursday, April 9th. If you're a poet or a writer who'd be interested in sharing your work at a future event, you are more than welcome to get in touch with us via the @PerformanceAnxiety, Performance ANXT, Twitter account, or by messaging the co-organizers directly. I'm at Tom Snarski, TOMSNARSKY, on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me at tomsnarski@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, the other co-organizer of the series, and I'll let you know how when she shares her poems with us second tonight. At each of our events, we usually feature around 10 readers who each have up to 5 minutes to share a selection of their writing with us. This week we're doing things a little bit differently, though. We only have 8 readers who have generously agreed to share their work with us this evening, but after each reader we're going to have an equal period of time, so another 5 minutes, just to discuss the poems that that person has shared, poems, other writing, etc. Our readers and myself and our listener will become panelists, basically making connections, asking questions, and doing our best to emulate the controlled chaos of, say, a Zoom meeting, with which I'm sure many of our readers and listeners are familiar at this point in COVID-19 social distancing. So I'm really privileged to introduce our first reader, who again submitted a recording because of the technical difficulties, for which I'm very, very grateful, Rosebud Ben-Oni. Rosebud Ben-Oni won the 2019 Alice James Award for If This Is the Age We End Discovery, forthcoming in 2021, and is the author of Turn Around Bright Eyes from Get Fresh Books in 2019, a book I had the privilege of reviewing with Joe Ianni for EcoTheo Review. Her poem, Poet Wrestling with Angels in the Dark, was commissioned by the National September 11th Memorial in New York City. So, without further ado, and again with infinite thanks because she handled this situation with such grace, here's Rosebud Ben-Oni.
This is Poet Wrestling with Surface Tension. When the wells dry up, my mother is taken to search for extraterrestrials in the desert. The location, like her real age, is undisclosed. No fake Prada stores, no high-altitude balloon conspiracies, and no reception. The call, in a sense, ends the moment I tried to claim the apple, never fell at all from either tree. Abba asserts breathe, and then warns me she doesn't like the word alien. I know this well enough, how my mother knows well enough, that deserts are not prophecy, or a graveyard song for an animal sanctuary somewhere far off, founded on second guessing. Like it ever mattered which side of a fence or warhead to the last rhino left, when he's blessed with 2 armed guards to protect him from everything but thirst. Over static I hiss, it's too late to save face. What they must think of you, when your best techno-signatures are smog, sulfur dioxide, stampedes in open-air stadiums. Is this how you're found amid the darkness? Is it enough? Would you not exist if you lived unseen? While my mother rises and falls into sky, I repeat how humans have changed the destiny of this planet. Abba cries out, breathe. He mistakes this for atonement and fires back. How wrong! The foundations here, like those in supersymmetry, are stacked. How you built your wells and havens so inaccurately that your ultimate capability is never being proven. Wrong. I won't ask for forgiveness when Abba searches for his place again among you. Was it enough to believe the apple would never rot from a lack of rigor? When did you stop asking for the math? And when the rhino turns into a golden calf, what will tarnish and unearth your base metals? What will you do when your alloys sour and gasp? I hold my breath, I trap his wrath, the heart continues to track. Abba falls silent when I switch off every tap in highway, render complete darkness. The last of you continue to gaze up, for no reason you will recall. You shiver and open mouths wide for once what was precious and pure, and I no longer pretend I ever breathed any part of it. This future you pull together, the way a single drop of water relies on surface tension. I won't ask forgiveness when giving away exact coordinates and next destinations. Don't be afraid. On the surface we aren't unlike one and the same. It's just you are the reason you're already gone. And I'm here to stay. So that poem can be found in Poetry Magazine's December 2019 issue. The next poem I'm going to read is from my book, Turn Around Bright Eyes, and it's the poem that opens the book, which can actually also be found in Poetry Magazine, I believe in the October 2016 issue. This is Mata Rose tags G-Dragon on the 7. Mata Rose never comes home. She's hungry like a wolf. She's Rosa de Mota and Lacroix, all the girls hail on Queens Boulevard. All the views she's killed in the name of Iman and Yasmin Leban. Mata's quite meta. Mata means kill. Rose occur from the real meat of it all. She's part My Little Pony. Into bronies she has loved and loved not by Astro Pony compatibility chart. She's the queerest part of me. What's left after the clubs close, and has yet to go. Home she never goes. When she writes, I always write. In bed just woof down a Three Musketeers. Mata's on a mission, which is to say I'm my most queer, my most Mata Rose, when she and I don't need all the girls in the yard, don't need all the girls in the yard, by which I mean the one who's not the one who's blocked texts and torn up wish you well, slicker still, that riddle get you killed kind of a woman for whom Mata Rose almost cut off a foot, went to the end of 2 buck ghosting rails. My man is a little afraid of Mata. He accepts her, though, lets her come and go, because I stay, I am always with him. Because Mata just wants every 7 train to dissolve into G-Dragon sound, wants you to howl, boom Mata Mata, boom Mata Mata, wow. G Mata, Dragon Rose, the most pony of them all. G Mata 7, Dragon Train Rose, don't wait up, never left stop, never comes, boom Mata Mata, boom Mata Mata, home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosebud. And for the first time in performance anxiety history, we're going to open the floor to other readers and panelists and listeners and everyone to talk about some of the work that Rosebud shared. I think there was a little bit of a technical snag where we lost a little bit of it in the recording, but we'll make all the poems available to you some way, somehow. So take the floor. Anyone, what did you notice? What did you wonder? What blew you away?
Oh, I love that. The second poem, I just read it for the first time last night in the thread that we were posting about poems from places that you were from. And it's just it was so great to hear it read because, you hear where you're from in your voice so much too. And it brought so much even more to it, your region. It was just great. I loved it.
Oh, thank you so much.
There was a line in the first poem that really got to me that I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to misquote it, but it begins with, "You are the reason."
Oh, you are the reason you're already gone and I'm here to stay.
Yeah, that's killer.
Yeah, I realize that kind of takes on a different meaning right now at this time. And it's kind of frightening, but I really needed to read this poem tonight because there's a lot going on with my family, and it just was very freeing to read it.
Best wishes to you.
Oh, thank you.
Can I talk, or does someone else have an opinion?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I really loved the little pony line.
Yeah.
Like, that reminds me of everything I love about magical fiction, and just I love that, and it made me see a little happy purple color in my head, so that was cool. I'm not on drugs, I have synesthesia.
I love that. Yeah.
And good poetry, I feel, should always make you feel or see a color or something. Thank you so much for sharing your talented book.
Yeah, one thing that Joe and I felt when we were kind of reviewing your book was just the way in which so many different kind of languages, both literally and like the fact that English and Spanish and other spoken languages are present, but also like the language of popular music and the languages of science and the languages of like all these different kind of valences come in to a lot of these poems. And it's so cool to like just kind of see the poem as this almost super collider where it's just going to like get set up and then things are going to happen that will really just like the poem made possible. And that was like, I remember feeling when we were like really deep in some of the poems in your book, like that we just kind of wanted to throw more things in there because the things that were in there were already doing so much, but we're like, and that conjunctive piece felt so cool.
Yeah, one example of that I really loved and wrote down was astropony compatibility charts. That just like sent my brain in so many directions. I loved it. And it sounds so good too. The sonic of it is really nice.
Yes. Great sounds.
That's how I based my dating life. I just went off astropony compatibility charts. I'm joking, but I'm kind of serious.
So we've got a little bit more than a minute left. Does anybody else want to share thoughts, things on your mind about the work that Rosebud shared with us tonight?
I would love to ask maybe what was the first line or word or spark of inspiration. I know everyone hates being asked that, but yeah.
No, I actually really love that. So this poem I wrote at Canto Mundo, the G-Dragon poem. The second poem I read, I wrote it at Canto Mundo, which is like this fellowship organization for Latinx poetry and poetics. And Lorna D. Cervantes was leading our workshop, and this was in 2014. And she says that you really got to read something that you love. So I wrote about G-Dragon and the 7 train, which is my train in Queens. And Mata Rose is my younger self who used to tag. I used to tag a lot, actually. Never got caught. And so that kind of just conflated into this poem. And I also have a background in physics, and that is the first poem with surface tension. I love science and chemistry in particular. So...
That's a really awesome note to end on. Thank you so much, Rosebud, again, for being with us tonight, for sharing those poems, and for starting this conversation. And if you want to read more of Rosebud's work, again, in the recording, we'll make sure that you have access. That's the duck timer that is, very militant. You can find Rosebud on Twitter at Rosebud, Rosebud Ben-Oni, Benoni. And again, her new book, Turn Around Bright Eyes, is out from Get Fresh Books. I cannot recommend it enough. And I was happy again to review it with my friend Joe, who's another performance anxiety contributor. So our second reader, and I apologize in advance to some of our other readers, because if I, violently mute you, it's because of any sort of background noise, etc. So Kristin, I may have actually muted you, which is like the rudest thing you can do before an introduction. But Kristin Garth, who is also the co-organizer of Performance Anxiety with me, is a pushcart, best in the net, and Ristling nominated sonnet stalker. Her sonnets have stalked journals like Glass, Yes, 521, Luna Luna, and more. She's the author of 15 books of poetry, including Pink Plastic House and Shut Your Eyes Succubi from Maverick Duck Press, Crow Carriage and Candy Cigarette Woman Child Noir from the Hedgehog Poetry Press, Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream from Twisted Press, and The Meadow, which again I got to review from APEP Publications. She's the founder of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, and co-founder of our very own Performance Anxiety. Thanks so much, Kristin, for keeping the discussion alive.
Okay, well, I'm going to read a few poems at first from The Meadow, because it's my book that's out right now and that Tom so graciously reviewed, and just I can't even talk about how beautiful that review was. But anyway, you can pre-order the book at apeppublications.com if you like some of these poems. But to tell you a little bit at the beginning, some of the poems have to do with how, this whole book is about my experiences in BDSM and also my experiences as an abused child. It starts out in a way I didn't control in my life. So the first poem I'm going to read is actually based on the movie Magnolia, but it's a character that I related to very much in my own child abuse. So I'm going to read that, and then I'll go into two of the poems that are about the sexuality I chose. Okay. But it did happen, and they will bring you medicine, bald spots, beige suits, the other ones, averting eyes, grind teeth between pink cotton polka dots. You sniff their bouquets, poppies, powderized, to chase away forget-me-nots that look like cocks, uncircumcised, hooded ghosts, preteen hosts with lubrication from the eyes. A shock of pornographic memories, they dose you until tears are even upside down. Skull rain through sockets, pestilence of frogs. Another thing you swallow silent, pound their violence inside a man-made fog. They wait until you are anesthetized, avoid what's childish peeks from dead brown eyes. And the next poem I'm going to read is called Safe Word. Something the swingers never heard, their lips delivering a safe word. Dropped it soon as you would cry, as if single-tail whips require an alibi. Emotion hewn from fucking dolls they shaped, lasering hair formed pallid cunt landscapes, explorable by any man without pretense of care, understanding it's unendurable to hide away this pain. Until a woman sees into you and makes it plain. Restrained against a wooden frame, she will summon unburdening until you cannot refrain from raging, though it's mutiny, you know, to be human inside of this sex show. And the next poem I'm going to read is a little bit of a tongue twister. And it's also from the Meadow, and it's called Denial. And it's about orgasm denial. I actually wrote it in the throes of orgasm denial, so that's why it's insane. Denial, a dark discussion of denial, detailed by dirty digits, dozens deputized to document disgrace. Desire, derail, deprived, described, defined, and digitized. A diary delineates her dreams. Each dick and drip depiction demanded delivers data disciples debate, deem as drivel, deleterious, disband as disappointed as denial drives their dainty, droll, demented doll distraught. Demonic devotion she derives, dispensing dirty deets, dollars for desire. Devils in the details of her denial. Dire dance for one, his quorum does defile. And my last one I'm going to read, I actually just wrote the other day in the midst of all this coronavirus. And obviously I talked a little bit about my child abuse before, but I don't talk to my parents a lot, but I do talk to them. And because of, being in this situation, they wanted to, I'll just read the poem. I'll explain it. But this was just published today in Punk Noir. Earth is an angry lover that still makes me come. My parents, right-wing extremists, I hate for philosophies as much as what they did to me. Occasionally communicate. This week about coronavirus. Say it was created in a Chinese lab. Biological warfare. Though Trump's got it under control. But do you have by chance some toilet paper? And I jump at the to say, I'll see. Hang up this phone and Google virus created in lab. And it is more scary, sad of info. The evolving spike proteins required for human beings to succumb. Earth's an angry lover who still makes me come. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kristin. And I can hear the clapping already, which means you've all unmuted your mics. You're full of ideas and thoughts and feelings. And there it is.
My last
The
one was
floor
Food.
is open.
It's very musical.
I had thoughts. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just very musical. That refrain that you used at the end to have it come full circle.
Oh,
And
thanks.
just in general, like what was that line? I hate them for their philosophies. What they did to me.
Yeah, what
That's
it
a really
to
great
me.
rhyme. That's it.
Thanks.
I had thoughts, but like a good orgasm, I cannot remember anything now. Like, just truly, yeah. Thank you. Know I love you. Okay.
You're so sweet.
Yeah, I really liked getting to review the Meadow because it was like to have the form be like the form of the sonnet kind of be fixed and be a boundary and be sort of a thing that you're kind of working within. And it's not, I know the book is definitely not all in sonnets, but like it draws your attention in so many different directions, like to the way the form is kind of making you put, like, you do stuff in the book that I think is so cool, like where you push the rhymes and the sonnet around, sort of like this way that like the music of it, like Manuel was saying, is like so tense, in this, the way that like the content finds its form. There's some cool Ronald Johnson quote that I can't think of right now that's like content finds form the way like a jaguar finds its prey or something. I'm grossly misquoting it, but it felt so like, yes, like that's the form. And like I just love like the way the sonnet works in your book and in your hands in general.
Whenever I write about talk about writing a BDSM book, I have to always make that joke that yes, and always I work better in restraint. It's my joke. So but I do like. I mean, the Meadow is mostly. I think there's one poem in there that's not a sonnet, and then there's a couple of real short poems, introductions, but.
Yeah, speaking of form and constraint, the alliteration and denial worked really, really well. That way it was like almost unbearable and overwhelming. All of the D's just totally reflected the subject matter so perfectly.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. Do people have other thoughts? Or Kristin, do you have any other thoughts? Anything about the book or about the poems that we heard tonight?
No, just that you can pre-order it, at apeppublications.com.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love this new format for performance anxiety because it means that we can hear the claps and we can hear all the things that normally we see on people's cameras while they're like, yes, poems, yes. And so I'm really happy to have that be a part of our event tonight. And if you want to read, again, more of Kristin's work, a couple people were holding up books by her while she was reading because she's incredibly prolific, and her work is always findable on Twitter. Oh yeah, Eris had all your book, or like several of your books, and was like, "Hey, check it out." And I was like, "Yeah." So,
Kristin's a great foil for me because she has like a preternatural elegance to her poetry. Like for me, it's just utter abandon. But I don't know. You'll see. But yeah, I mean, very sick.
Yeah, and one thing, and again with finding Kristin on Twitter, you can find her at Lola and Jolie, which is LOLAANDJOLIE, and on her website, which is Kristin Garth, KristinGarth.com, and you can reach out to her in those media too to actually be on Performance Anxiety, because she communicates with a bunch of our readers, and we would love to have you sharing your work if you know Kristin and have worked with Kristin. And like she mentioned, that book, The Meadow, which I got to review, I think at Empty Mirror. It's a blur. It was right. I'm like, oh god. It was at that is pre-orderable from Jeremy Gock's incredible APEP publications. So APEP, APEP publications.com. So our next reader is another person who I'm really excited to have on, who has a lot of really cool projects, and that's Coco Keehl. Coco Keehl is a writer living in the forests of Michigan. She likes to hike with her dog, ride her motorcycle, and teach yoga. She's the founder of Graviton, a science-inspired poetry magazine, and is the author of Wave Function, just released with Ursus Americanus. So Coco, I'm so happy to have you on. I can't wait to hear these poems.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so awesome, and I'm really excited to be here reading with everybody. So Wave Function just came out, and just a little bit about this book. I wrote it when I was just leaving the idea of my religion behind, and I was really searching for just whatever. And I happened to come into, reading a lot about quantum mechanics and hypothetical physics. So that being said, as Richard Feynman says, he can safely assume that nobody understands a lot about quantum mechanics. So I'm going to read the opening poem to this book. And it's called What's So Empty in an Empty Set? Today's the day, and you are it. A fox in a wolf suit, a wolf in a human, an alien then finally peeled away. Always, the always you've been waiting. Is this what you ran for? To say you destroyed all but only made half glass, a yawn full of water, cough in the armchair waiting for death? No, no. All the blood under talons, itch means the self can be scratched back. Impossibility, my new reality. So the next poem I'm gonna read, it refers to the National UFO Reporting Center. So sometimes I just look up to see what's going on in the UFO world, and seeing all of the crazy posts that people do make about the UFOs they see. How do you know what altered state you're in? Extrasensory perception begets properties, expanding universe. You can keep on praying. I'll start digging the graves. I'll check the National UFO Reporting Center reports, stop my stopwatch and forget. Light reflects off our exchanging ideas like, how long are you going to do this? You said, I said. You said, I said. You said, I said. How long? So this next one that I'm gonna read, it's called, it's about dark matter, and I am interested in what CERN is doing, and all of the research that they're trying to figure out, like the elementary particles of the universe and how they interact. So this is called Undiscovered Subatomic Particles. Dark matter can't be found if it doesn't exist, or God, where be energy, or the physics of heat. And I rippled two black holes in and out, unending infinities. Every entropy used to measure the rearrangement. I rearranged then myself, easier to remove, unbreak, reorder, was once three in womb, but came in two. It did not surprise me to learn I was twins. Here is my hand. Here, other palm to your shoulder. You surrender to God. So what? What makes you think? What makes you think? My questioning is weakness. I don't know how much time I have left because I forgot to set a timer. But I'm gonna read one more poem. And this was first published in Crab Fat back in 2017. I don't think they're around anymore. But it is called In Context of Quanta, From Bed I See Space. I change direction from arbitrary, north for parallel. Galaxies and finite ends that bleeds one to next. The strain is not a pool in which to swim, wave that is a wave, but also not a wave, a duality, duplicity from stopping hands to light, the race of veins within us. See how red light bends right through us, as if we were never there. In space, the spectrum of silence is in tandem, in plasma, an interstellar collision or vision, and Sistiera itself in shelves in which to shelf everything that could happen, that will happen, happens here. I play theory that lays cozy dog on the bed. This is a place I keep finding cosmological parameters, living purgatory between sheets while sneaking between space. Is a wave, but is a light, but here is a string to begin to pull from dimension, not this, but not this either. I don't know if that was 5 minutes, but I think so.
That was perfect timing. Thank you so much, Coco, for those poems. We've gotten so much science with our poetry up to this point in the evening, which is really exciting. So I'm going to open the floor. Do people have thoughts, ideas, feelings, things going through them?
Yeah, I have feelings. That was really special for me because I've been a fan of Coco for a while now. I don't know if she minds me sharing, but I'm an avid follower of her Telegram stream, and like her poetry it kind of resembles to me like the sort of twitchy, glitchier like pop music. I don't really have much of a vocabulary to discuss poetry or much of a background in poetry. Surprise, but I can usually describe music, and her stuff is always like sort of reminding me of like kind of like skittering electronic pop. And yeah, I mean, check out her Telegram stream. It's a really well kept secret.
Oh, thank you so much. That is exactly like the kind of stuff that I listen to. So I'm glad that you're like banging off that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Other people with Venetian Snares vibes to share?
Yeah.
Or non-Venetian Snares vibes also accepted?
Yeah, I totally felt that kind of like glitchy vibe. All the repetitions and the slant rhymes worked really, really well for that. And the rhythm in your reading was really like had a lot of momentum that kept me going. And there were so many phrases, I can't remember them now, but so many times I was just like, oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's so great. I really love playing off of just the different sounds and everything in my head. So reading out loud for me is really important and part of my writing process. So I'm glad that you could pick up on that.
I just want to put the plug in like out there that when I'm not doing poetry stuff, I teach math, and it's just really exciting when poets like you or like Rosebud are putting like, for example, science and math as like a vocabulary amongst many others into poems. Like I think there's, I know that I've had students who don't think it's like possible when they first come into like high school or something like that to like both one and the other, or like don't see them as kind of working together in a real way. And like the fact that in your does this kind of thing, like that's just really cool to me, because it's really great to sort of challenge that binarism of like, no, you either have to do STEM or you have to do the humanities or whatever. Like I just think that we need more of that, and it's really awesome when that happens.
Yeah, I thank you. I love that too, and that's why I love Graviton. Just giving a space for people to project all of their poetry, because science and math are so beautiful, and they're just a gorgeous thing that, like you said, for so long we were taught either linguistics or science, and I just think the merging of those are just extraordinary, and yeah, it's definitely a pleasure to me. So everybody check out Graviton and submit your work if you would like. Sorry for that plug.
I appreciate it, because it's doing my work for me, which is very nice. Do folks have other thoughts, other directions you want to take the work that Coco has shared with us tonight? Cool. So I do want to plug Graviton because, again, Coco's doing amazing work there. I believe is it graviton.net?
It's gravitonlit.com.
Oh, gravitonlit.com. Cool. So we'll put the URL in when we share the recording, but please check out gravitonlit.com and also check out, again, that Coco is reading a lot from Wave Function, which just went through its second printing after coming out in January. So that's a fast second printing because it's an amazing chapbook from Ursus Americanus. And also, I believe you're looking for a social media director and or collaborator for Graviton. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. Just putting it out there in the universe to see what will happen. So
sweet. So if this sounds up your alley, you can find Coco again on Twitter at CMKeehl, CMKEEHL, or again gravitonlit.com to find the magazine. So we are, propelling like stars or like waves through our reading order, which is very exciting. And next up, I'm very excited because we stole this form, I think, from a reading that he emceed, is Manuel Marrero. And Manuel is the founder and editor-in-chief at Expat Press, and also the author of the momentous book, Not Yet, which I'm very excited to read, and as well as Thousands of Lies. So Manuel, thanks for coming on to this very social version of performance anxiety, sharing your thoughts already, and now getting to share your work, which I'm really excited to hear.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to read an excerpt from Not Yet, and I'm just going to get on it in the second volume, actually. But all right. Should be under 4 minutes, but let me know. Karina and Candida, the narcs, Stockholm Syndrome. It'll run its course. Time is the collateral damage of people's pain. Fuck that. Staying is so much worse than leaving. This is an exceptional sitch. Of course things take time, yet people have to seize control of their lives anytime they want. I'm living proof. Yet pain has got to stop somewhere. We shouldn't allow ourselves to maintain a chain of damage created by the sad lives of others, passing it down. I need a drink. Don't even worry about bumming me out. I'm bummed out. A friend is shooting up. Death sentence. Tell me on the front end what you need. Sounding board, future sage, or possessive bitch. I think I got all three. I got intimate with your pics and videos and fell asleep after. Maybe I could feel it sending me your energy. I'm going to burn myself into you. In a pile. Looking through everything, and it's apparent how batshit bonkers I already was for you. My packaging can come on kind of strong. Glad I lost it. You found the smoking gun contrivance. Placebo effect. Your brain drives explicitly derivative, just banter and Aries wind. The world is full of piss. I know I'm always there for you, but right now I'm not. I'm there for myself. Life partner Lotto like to pretend you're famous, a fucking charade. Oscillate. Romantic side of me died or something buried. Rediscoverable maybe. Lost inadvertent or not. Kicking my ass. You so beautiful you liable to cause murder. Not knowing when you're gonna die is what makes life valuable. Knowing you're gonna die. I mean, I'd rather not know, but wrong answer. Sounds like a horribly anxious way to live. That has no value. I just want to know why. Give me clarity and closure. We can do that on the bus tomorrow for 13 hours. You get one fucking life and it can be good. You're kind of mean tonight, just a little bit. A roach just flew into my face. Hostility will get you nowhere. Real quick, how do you feel about this passion dust lube? Alexi and I literally haven't had sex in over 2 years and maybe only had sex a handful of times. That shit is really atypical. Another time. Put on. So horny. Made me realize there was 0% sex and rock and roll these days. Sad. I have an essay started, you'll never write it. I'd like to get some sex first. I've never sent hot pictures or videos. I'm shacking up, it's okay, she parties. Moi, I just woke up and planted 1,000 kisses on you. Maybe I'll get high too. I wonder what our voices would sound like together. I didn't know human trafficking was so bad in Florida to cause traffic jams. You do sexy and beautiful and brilliant and perf for me good. Your effect on me is calming and exhilarating at once. When we peel that back, it's going to be like a singularity. Seeing your face and mouth engage in conversation or simply look at me, see me, I forget my point. I'm growing bitter and cynical and cold and distrustful of everyone, but fuck all. They are in love and they will fall in love. I rode home and I'm still alive largely because of you. I am packed and ready to unpack. I'm going to eat your face in a good way. You have a turn, Karina. I want to be responsible for your happiness and make you giddy. Where's the joy in this? I'm not at all worried any of this is bullshit. Ecstatic. We exist in multitudes. All options and choices are best. 29 different imagined ways I kissed you. I can tell by the way you look at me on VChat. Linchpins on linchpins. It won't be enough, but parting will be nothing compared to reunion. We're nuts in love. Touch me once and you'll know it's true. I've never wanted anyone like this. Crazy for you, Madonna. It's rare someone gets me very exclusive club, not even a club. I see you. You're coming right for me desperately. I think so right time right now. And you for me, sheesh, I'm blessed. We are good for each other. Not to be squandered, there's no time. My face and your face. I hope they are keeping record of this for the sake of humanity. History should care. I fucking fell in love with you and I'm going to fucking fall in love with you. Good night, fuckface. Toes curled until I see ya. Honey, you're taking me to dinner? Sometimes I voice my feelings even if they add no new information. Enough talk. We got skin in the game now. I like low tides, the kind that go on forever. What are the beaches like? It was like that in the Keys. My box elder puzzle piece here suit. I panicked. Prologue over a hush landed on them. You know we aren't going to have sex, right? I was joking about all that. I won the prize. Bitches, they're playing songs for us. Forgetting to sleep and eat. Miami has a Euro feel just like Heaven came on the radio. And my Uber driver just turned it up. No one's ever done that. I love your town. That's it.
Pyrotechnic. That was whoa. Thank you. Yeah, the claps are coming in. They were like kind of reeling and coming back and reeling and coming back. And I want to hear what people are feeling after Manuel's reading.
Sure. I can't clap, but I'm refraining from making that weird noise I make when I'm really excited about reading things. And also I was reading that yesterday, so that was cool. I remember the like, what was the needle line?
I don't know.
Like, she's gone past the Rubicon sort of thing.
Oh, that's another part.
No, you've read it.
Lizzie's like my biggest fan, so.
Yeah, okay, I'll give other people a chance. Okay.
She knows my work better than mine.
We need chapter and verse numbers, people. Yeah. Yeah, Kristin, I think you were going to say something, maybe?
Yeah, it was just musical. That's what I was going to say was, like you were saying, ours was different, but I think it's very musical in the same way, so I really enjoyed it. And, and I liked your delivery.
But yeah.
Yeah, you have some great lines. Like, all of it was super awesome. And to hear you read especially, it was a really big treat for me. But, like, some of the lines, like, I don't know the algorithm, that isn't me, and all the thoughts escaping in the multitude, like, just, they're so visceral, and it just makes me want to delve really deep into this. So it really captures me, and it's just awesome. And it was really great.
Coco. That means a lot coming from you. Yeah, it's all dialogue, actually. But...
It's all from Telegram?
No, it's all dialogue.
Oh, I was like, whoa. Okay, yeah, it's all dialogue. That's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
That's really cool, because it makes me think of like JR and like in the only other thing that I'm doing like this that involves poetry and like the internet is Ariana Rines is reading the Do We Know Elegies by Rilke on Instagram Live, and then people are talking about him, and like one of the things that was weird is he has a poem that is about like longing, that in all the canonical translations translated as longing, but the German word, which I think is like Werbung, is usually used now for advertising. Like, just, it's what if you talk about like ads or commercial, and like there's so many lines in what you read that where it was about like my packaging, or like you talked about like do you want the extended edition, or I can't remember what it was, but it was like this moment of like I'm wrapped up in this too, or I'm like presenting myself outwardly in this way, and it's totally inseparable from like longing or wooing or whatever. Like this kind of relation is always tied up in how we show up to other people, and I just think like the speed at which the dialogue kind of moves through these different like I don't know, guises that you can have between like the lover and the beloved, like you're planning kisses on the forehead and then like screaming in the space of a paragraph, because that's how love is. Like, it is that crazy. And so that was just really cool.
Nailed that critique. Thank you. That I'm blown away. You get it. I mean, yeah, there's definitely, I mean, you're supposed to hear all the longing and the lipstick through it. Like, but,
I mean, the Duino elegies are 100 years old, so we needed something new. It's clear. The extended cut of the Duino elegies.
I'm interested in translation too. Like words carry through different languages. Although but Spanish is my first language, and I think it's interesting how everything is so much more concise yet also dramatic in Spanish. Like, wounds is like lesiones, and like kissing someone is like te voy a comer la boca, I'm gonna eat your mouth. Like you can't translate that. Like I know mostly the romantic languages, but it's really hard to get as like both vulgar and as like romantic as they get, without like just being totally ridiculous. Celine's a good example, I think, of a challenge. Translate. But yeah, thanks for the feedback, guys.
Yeah, it's so cool, and to think like I forget how many pages is Not Yet.
It's like 1,110 pages.
Yeah. I was thinking about all the people. Oh yeah, please go right ahead.
What?
I was just out of boredom. I literally tried to see if I could just knock myself unconscious for 1 second by hitting myself in the face with one volume, and you can. You're welcome.
It's free online now. We put all the books for free online.
It's a literal weapon.
Yeah, I was thinking about how, like, for some people who are in this like COVID moment right now, it's almost like people are reaching for like Bolaño or these other like big novels to just kind of, and it's almost like a sort of, there's another line that you had in what you read where like you're unburying like the romantic feeling, or like maybe it could be recovered later. And I think some people are doing like a sort of affective archaeology of kind of like sadness or the doldrums right now, because like those people who are picking up 2666 for the first time, it's like, oh man, do we need that now? But also maybe they do, maybe we do, maybe, I don't know. And it's so cool.
Actually, I use Bolaño in the epigraph, so it's funny you mentioned that. He's a huge influence on me, like his life and his work, and like him like standing on like I don't even know if it's lore or if it's real, if it's apocrypha or whatever, but like him like standing on like tables at his restaurant where he was like a busboy and like demanding that people give up their jobs and like pursue poetry full time. I mean, The Savage Detectives makes me like cry, but I think I start the book with the epigraph from his first book, and for I wrote this book for the ghosts, who because they are outside of time are the only ones with time. And I don't know, that's always struck a chord with me.
That feels like a really beautiful note to end on, unless the folks have any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns for Manuel besides applause and snaps. Cool. So I'm really excited to have had Manuel on Performance Anxiety, and you can find Manuel on Twitter at expatLitJ, the expat press imprint, and expatpress.com has Not Yet, as well as a bunch of other amazing titles, and I really, really encourage you to check that out. And we're really excited, I believe, to have another expat author coming next. So our next reader is going to be Eris, or Elizabeth Victoria Aldrich. Eris is somehow short, again, for Elizabeth Victoria Aldrich. She's a former cool person who you can find on Twitter at ERIS_RLT. So Eris, thank you so much, and fire away. Though I think I may have tyrannically muted you earlier, which means that you might still be, the tyranny.
No worries. And because whatever. Okay.
Cool. Can you hear us okay?
So this is from Daughters of Icarus. I can't even pronounce it. And it's about working at the Lusty Lady Peep Show, but I turned everyone into like energy cum vampires, and it was published in 2013. It has many discrepancies. I'll shut up and read it. Okay. Saturnina, Elizabeth Aldrich. And this was before I ever called myself Eris, by the way. So anyway, Eris' skin is sticky with midnight shift dancer sweat. Her scent is burning sugar, a little salty. On stage, the lights make her and the other dancers look unreal and labyrinthine, like nocturnal creatures that don't need sunlight. If you could cut through their skin, they'd drip bioluminescent ooze. If they had veins, they'd be the metal wire advertisements of liquor stores. Eris's platinum blonde wig is colored a shade of neon lavender from the kaleidoscope of lights. Blue LED ropes make her hair look shiny. Red spotlights make her skin look flawless. Green and peach string lights line the wall-to-wall mirrors. Warm white halos stay stranded on the ceiling. Eris knows each twist of her torso and reach of her legs as second nature now. She is a professional tease. There is no acid spit hiss from the jukebox. The sound is smooth wavelength. Slow electric purrs of the song's bass hums through each dancing body, each chair, each drink, each custy. Custies. The nickname for the peep show's customers. Go into narrow booths, slide cash in a narrow slit, and witness a window rising up to reveal a room where all that exists are femmed up naked girls dancing all day. On the dancer's side, the windows look like mirrors, and when the window rises up, a painted glass the size of a computer screen is revealed. Usually it's an older man in the middle of the black painted booth, looking something like a phantom. Sometimes they smile. Sometimes they avoid eye contact. Sometimes all they want is eye contact. Sometimes they come in already furiously jacking off. Sometimes it's a group of drunken, giggling girls. Other times it's a couple dropping in to fuck for an exhibitionist thrill. When dancing for hours, it's easy to make up different scenarios. The dancers are in a spaceship. The dancers are in a magic elevator. The stage is limbo, and the dancers decide whether each custody goes to heaven or hell. It's easier to develop a crush. Seeing someone you have a disastrously strong attraction to, naked for hours at a time, can either go in the direction of torture or fantasy. The fantasy doesn't pass the time nearly as well as masochistic desire. Astrid has Marilyn Monroe's hairstyle, bubblegum instead of blonde, and is very, very shy. Eris feels like an outspoken rhinoceros in comparison, but in heels, naked, and earning $10.24 an hour to aid patrons in orgasm. Late night shifts are a blur, a hazy occurrence smelling of pussy and alcohol-soaked paper towels, feet and peppermint tea, weed and hairspray. Yeah, you can tell why I said the thing about time. Okay. When it's 3 a.m., Eris saunters off stage. She slips off her heels in the narrow hallway, punches her time card, and walks down to the dressing room with her ass coaster, which is a blanket so her ass and pussy don't touch the stage, wrapped around her. She pulls off her wig in front of the mirror that takes up the upper half of the dressing room wall. Her yellow mohawk stays flat from hours of wearing her wig cap, which is just black pantyhose, with the legs cut off. She pulls on her sweats and a purple hoodie. By the time she's walked to the bus stop to go home, she's finished smoking her ceremonial post-work cigarette, filled mostly with valerian root. Being a naked girl is convenient for the cash, but passing for a boy makes the walk home easier. Eris had snagged a custody into the VIP room. Despite the fancy name, it's a room just as dark as the single booths. Gotcha. All right. So basically, she steals this weird drug, can't find it on the dark net, and I want to read my favorite part of it. This is when Eris kissed and fucked Astrid between the beds side by side, or when she could have. This is what desire feels like. Black adrenaline slick through a straw of molasses, corkscrews spinning into each inch of skin. It takes a lot, and you still only get a little, but it's because what you wanted was to want more. No one craves satisfaction. That's far too scary to actually experience. Because when you get it, what's left? Nothing was fun until it ran through the full road of excess. Nothing was fun until it wasn't fun anymore. And the last thing. When the new Krusty walked in looking for an open booth, passed out pile of limp flesh was all he saw. That and a group of giggling girls dressed in all lace, propped up on 7.5-inch heels, magnificently illuminated. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Eris, for sharing that piece and for getting this conversation rolling, which I can't wait to hear. Again, one of your publishers is here, other people who have shared work. I'm really excited to just hear what people are thinking after that.
Well, I also want to say sorry. I didn't know what to read, and then I was inspired by what was read before. So yeah, thank you so much for doing the 1 minute thing and everything.
Of course.
Yeah, we did a great job reading. I loved hearing all of this, and I loved the colors. I loved the description. I mean, it was very real to me, even though I worked in a topless as opposed to a peep show, but I felt, the vocabulary of it was very familiar, and it was so real. And but told with such eloquence. So I absolutely adore it.
I love you. Oh, thank you.
Eris is like the real thing. I'm really happy to found her because she knows what she's writing about. She knows her subject really well, and now also it's incredibly tender, which is jarringly juxtaposed with just how ridiculously sexual it is. And I can't wait to publish her book. It's coming out later this year. It's called Ruthless Little Things. It's going to blow a hole through the universe.
That's what I like about you. I feel like a lot of people just assume, I think you've done a great job, and I hope that, I have somewhat, but the people that work in the sex industry are very hard and dark, and yes, you're exposed to all that, but I think a lot of the people that work are incredibly tender people, and incredibly, and that's always what I just completely connected with you about from the beginning, is just the same kind of, we're kindred spirits. So I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do other folks have things that they're thinking about resonating with in Eris's work? Again, it's really awesome to hear so many champions of that book that's going to come out later this year. Can you remind us again what the title is going to be?
Ruthless Little Things, which I've fun fact, Damien Ark made it plural for a fact, but I have it's written on a lot of different things. And
I made it plural. I misunderstood the title was plural, and then Damien said it was confirmed that it was better. I think it is Ruthless Little Things. I think it's a great title. Reminds me of a horror movie or something.
Yeah, it doesn't remind people of children, because they will not read about children in my book.
Yeah, I wonder. We had our parent teacher. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
People too that also work. Sorry, I think a lot of people literally are little people that work in, at least at my topless club that I worked at, we would always joke that if people saw us without our heels, I was 5'3", and I was one of the tallest people at that club. Most of the people were 5'1", 5. They were little people, so I think it's a great title in that way,
Well, thank you. I was about to try to find my stripper heels, but not necessary. I'm really touched by everything, and this is a picture from inside one of the private pleasures booths that I took against working with. This was originally a zine, actually, and so is this. And compliments and mean everything to me. This is it. You can get it for $3 on Kindle if you want, but anyway, I don't Thank you so much.
I'll always have an affinity for people who come from like DIY zine culture, and Lizzie and I connected on that early. Like, I don't know, because that's where I came from, basically. It's like making my own zines.
Yeah, and we're incredibly lucky as readers to potentially have the fruit of that, interaction and that sort of like publishing relationship at the end of this year. Again, that's from Manuel's Expat Press, which you can find on Twitter at EXPATLITJ. And you can find Eris's work more directly at Eris, ERIS_RLT. And again, we're just so excited to hear more from that book and read that book and share it far and wide. So I think we're going to move to our next reader, but thank you again so much for the expat lit representation. And our next reader coming up is Madison McCartha. And Madison McCartha is a Black multimedia artist and poet whose work appears or is forthcoming in Black Warrior Review, Denver Quarterly, The Fanzine, Full Stop, Jubilat, Prelude, Tarpaulin Sky, and elsewhere. Madison holds an MFA from the University of Notre Dame. He's been undignifiedly interrupted by my duck timer. He holds an MFA from the University of Notre Dame and is a PhD student right now at UC Santa Cruz. So Madison, thank you so much for being on Performance Anxiety with us. I'm super excited to hear your work tonight.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Give me just 1 second. So, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Perfectly.
Okay. So I'm going to read from this long poem, something that's kind of new. It's called the Cryptodrone Sequence, and it is pretty much an assemblage piece that's borrowing a lot of language from this technical handbook on computer security or computer network security, but it's also cut up with mostly my work, but like also people like Clarice Lispector and HD, and it's really, honestly, it's really inspired from Kathy Acker's book Blood and Guts in High School. So that's what I'll be reading from. Okay. So and so these are it's really long, but I've kind of broken it up into two sections, and you'll kind of get when the sections are breaking up. So, okay. Signal 325-5. My perfect man straps on the pink firing squad, screening your border for data deposits struggling to cross into the living, lying dormant until triggered. Cryptodrone can, even now, be sold into your network, lighting a match between the virus and the worm. Tunnels form, the basis of network security technologies. To create a tunnel, encode the data body in a cryptopod who navigates the uncontrolled network, constantly moving, never returning to the same site twice. All night I watch the runoff data approach and overtake me. When filter feeding with my antennae, I reinforce the violation. Cryptodrone constitutes a series of lips the ammo belt feeds into, a lineage or a line, an arrow pointing to every arousal. After crossing the uncontrolled network, the pod can be discarded and the body decrypted within the secure domain. Even lying face down on the path, Cryptodrone moves from the image the burden of display. Denials are designed to keep the network moving and ensure that any service a user needs remains available. So hold me as hard as you want. It doesn't hurt. But the moment a server lets the user in, then you're screwed, because Cryptodrone would be willing to kill for the pain of waking, to never again bend, never again emergency, the persistent production of my shade, coxcomb red in the mercury of invasion, every threat signature unique to its transaction, and as easy to steal as bread from the president's lips. a pixel rip murmur, cell white, filmic, rolling out on the pavement. Disadvantages of end-to-end encryption. 1. Each system must perform the same occlusion. 2. Only secures the content of my cum, but does nothing to hide the transmission taking place. 3. Relates every possible mistake of every action inside me. I no longer know who the lily or the shiv opens for a word your president gives if you owe him enough. Glowing in my data pods are the criteria of their execution when observed from below, appraising the loss. Each of us trace a threat pattern along the perimeter of your lives. Barest elliptic curve, an axis crossed I thought I could frame. Before the target slides within, a charged parameter where crypto drone indexes every person, place, or sniff you ever loved. Signal 326-1. My blue-green cheeks and snooky red nose patina in the heat. It wasn't cute leaving Cryptodrone to rust, holding your president in my arms after his crime. So listen up. From now on, this worm who stole the spotlight speaks, self-replicating code carrying no dangerous payload, erasing no witness. Chirping in the velvet air, my bare chest blinking over the shoals where no user can cache the roots of my life. Until the network strings me back, a gold strap jerked out of a voice far and far. Merest hiss in a flower voice. If you loved me, you would have If you loved me, I would have lasted one more day. The president's desire isn't that I kill, but transmute your death into an opaline light. Watching through the mullion, daily life contains within itself the abuse of daily life. Because Cryptodrone cares, he untethers caring. Behind enemy eyes, a cloud pattern spits my cryptopod into a variable terrain. My copperhead glint shot down like a stray if I go ballistic. Cryptodrone burns as both an insect and a sound. Barest magnolia spark winking shut in the vellum. In a biometric smear, Cryptodrone mediates any outstanding dispute between nations. Trembling in a throat, I tried feeding. I tried. From the dusk above tearing away the branches for the shot, Cryptodrone scavenges in the snow-cinched vein. Thermonuclear trace I fold to see all winter what felt like years. Learning to love myself. The first step is breaking out. In a parallel word, Cryptodrone perceives and flows a registry of disallowed destinations. Except, you don't see me at all, do you? An iodine flitting through the narrow compass of a chamber, hiding the afflicted in my arms. If Cryptodrone terminates in a forbidden terrain, this body is stripped and detained, visa waiver denied, unfit for prison use. An operator tests my inner oil with a finger, where my destination can be discerned, and every threat injected with a sensitivity label. Eyes only, officers only, detain while attempting to enter only, execute on site only. So that's it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, claps for that. And the chat was blowing up. We were all quoting everything that was happening. It was incredible. Let's hear what people are thinking instead of passing notes, because that was wild.
It is amazing. And the voice that you took on to read it was so incredible and really transported me to a completely different world. And I really, really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was remarkable. I mean, dystopian, all the weird juxtapositions. I felt like I was like in over my head, but I was like recognizing some things very clearly, and but like too immersed in it to keep it all like aligned. It had a very pleasantly, vividly disorienting effect. Like, I'm kind of in awe. I'm speechless.
I just wanted to say that one of my like ways into contemporary poetry ever was Ben Mirov, and Ben Mirov like says very often in the readings that he does that he owes this great debt to like Douglas Kearney's way of reading, and the way in which like the voice of the sort of like not flattened affect, because it's like the way a computer like voice sort of modulator would do that, and so you hear it and it's that uncanny valley moment of like it is an inflection, and it is a way of articulating like emotion and self-preservation and all these things, but the way it kind of mutates in the sort of machinic kind of consciousness, like, and the way you make that like live in sound is incredible. Like that was just so cool, and it reminded me of some of like my favorite poets. So that was awesome.
Yes, yeah. I couldn't have
so much.
On.
I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of sirens going off because I'm in Queens. I live in Queens, and listening to you read was like one of the first times like the sirens kind of fell away from me. So I really loved what you read. Thank you.
Where can we read those anywhere else right now? Because I would like to revisit what you just read a lot.
Awesome. So that isn't out yet. There are other pieces from it that are sort of actually Tarpaulin Sky's blog has the editors there like have decided to post some of it. So there's a big chunk that's just available as text, and then I like the end of last year I made a type of video collage sort of inspired by the text. And so that's another type of performance for it, and that's also on Tarpaulin Sky. But this stuff isn't out yet, so.
It's so cool it makes me think of like there's been these few kind of like literary spaces that have had this like, I don't know, like decaying data structure kind of vibe. Like Findelkind was around for a short time, and that like every page was this sort of interactive, like it felt like it was kind of falling away as you were clicking through it, but also just like the way in which it ties the text and the sort of duration of reading the text to our contemporary phenomenology of clicking and of like seeing through video and other media. And like I think it'd be really cool. It's really cool that there are spaces that are open to doing that kind of work, and that we could get to see this in those different forms too.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. I kind of actually wanted to add like a little like influence that's also thinking about like that type of clipped speed. As I watched this like really like really wild experimental little film called Tribulation 99. And has anybody seen this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, I think that there's something about the way that movie, that little film is making meaning between scenes that feels very much like a poem. But it's also interesting to think about the ways that that cut-ups or assemblages kind of make meaning in a similar way, that there's almost like a type of poetics to the conspiracy theory. And maybe that's, for me, like lately I've been thinking about that as thinking about other poems that might be doing that.
I'm so excited that we've had like the UFO and the conspiracy theory and the sort of computer virus, the real virus. Everything is happening in this space right now, and I want to open it if other people have thoughts that are on their minds, feelings that this poem or this excerpt made us feel. Any other thoughts?
I'm just curious. You said it's not published yet. Are you shopping it around, or like, are there plans? Maybe we don't get to know, but is it going to be widely available? Or?
Do you mean like for a book, for the book of it?
Yeah,
Or
online. Or...
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's still it's still sort of arriving. So like,
Okay.
Some people have like really generously decided to publish some of it. So, um,
Cool. Well, I'll look for it.
That's so awesome. And it was really a privilege, like when we hear the stuff that we know is not 100% in holdable book form, but is like living and breathing in and around poets. It's such a privilege. And that, again, was work by Madison McCartha, who you can find on Twitter at MADISONMCCARTHA. And also, he does have a book, Freakophone World, that's forthcoming from Inside the Castle in 2021. And Inside the Castle, in this moment, has made their catalog available for a short while as free ebooks. So please check that publisher out and keep your eyes and ears open for Freakophone World and what might come after that with these poems in it. So thank you again so much, Madison, for being with us. And I'm really excited to introduce our next reader, who reached out to me and I was very, very happy that she agreed to participate, Alicia Cole. Alicia Cole is a writer in Huntsville, Alabama. She's an Irish-American woman, autistic, dyscalculic, 2E, MAD, bisexual, gender fluid survivor, and an alt-spiritual practitioner. Her writing appears in Uncanny Magazine's Disabled People Destroy Sci-Fi. Her chapbook, The Way We Swarm, written at SAFTA's Firefly Farms, is forthcoming from Dancing Girl Press, another amazing publisher. So Alicia, thank you so much for your patience, because this has been the longest performance anxiety, I think, to date. And thank you so much for reading with us today. And I may have tyrannically muted you earlier, so if you are muted, that is my fault completely. Can you hear us all right?
I can hear y'all. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I thought it was really cool the reading was today because Autism Month landed yesterday, and today is Autism Day, and I thought it's really cool. So I wore my blue. One of my friends I go to performing arts school. We also have a day school, and he put it up a couple weeks ago. So I was reminded to do that. So that's really cool. I have two pieces here, both of which have been published. One in Starline, issue 40.3, and one in Uncanny's Disabled People Destroy Science Fiction, which we were really happy it won the award. It's a hard one for me to pronounce. The Aurora Awards in Canada, which are like the Hugos. It picked up something there, so that's really, really cool. But these are the first two in a series of poems that I started writing about having to do with my esoteric work. I've done quite a bit from Wiccan training all the way up through, all the way up, all the way down, whichever way you want to put it. Send it around. Western esoteric magic with the OTO with Alima, and I wrote some stuff about the kind of work you do when you practice magic and where it sometimes leads you mentally. What I'm starting to think about, where I'll explore more, is how my autism crosses over with it and what it does for me in terms of augmentation and things like that. But these first two are just about the actual experience of psychism and psychic warfare and what it does to you and shit like that. So the first one's called PTSD. We're still soldiers. The damage is just different. I didn't crash land near the Medusa foci formation physically. The surface of my brain is also fretted, ready to tune a sharp note, a cerebellum blast against the enemy. They're slender sirates. They prefer the glacier and sand dune areas. Sick opposites like their mouths. Do you remember when they played friendly, their darkness visible on every vid? There's something wrong, I said. They shivered forms at just the wrong moment. These are the things you have to be a soldier to see. I survived 3 campaigns without an injury. Knew I was slipping when my eldest child appeared wraith-like. The foci became my mother's breast littered with shrapnel, every mental movement littered with pain. I try to watch the sunrise every morning now, stay mostly in the light. And the second one is convalescence. Sparse terrain. I took the drugs today. They're a necessity like my breathing tube. The drugs make everything clear. Still, there are mornings when I look at them, small ovoid forms, oral pharmaceuticals. I roll them between my fingers, look out the window, see red dirt pile everywhere, see red dirt like my brain's own piled thoughts, drifting mechanisms, uncertain shifts and loops. They said it would be good therapy, seclusion. They said it would be necessary. When I served Psy-War soldier, it was all necessary. The mental bombs, the shadow sliding, the smart guns. The smart guns were the worst. Have you ever been shot before? They prep you, pre-shooting shooting. You feel it deep, practice absorbing the impact. I look out the window. I take a walk. Everything is red. I'm red also, my suit's slick with copper. I'd like to be done with red. I'd like to not be done with red. There have been days, when I haven't taken the meds. Unfortunately, they're counted. My body's monitored. One day I told them, it's easier, the red, more soothing. It drifts over me and stills me. That day they ordered me to take my meds, as though they knew from the hush in my voice I hadn't, as though they knew. They turned off the hollow screen until I complied. I cried so hard the windows turned white. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. It's funny putting in a breathing tube while you sob. But I went for a great walk. The world hammers inside of you when you're sick, and my heart hammered then. Where would I be when they came for me again? Where would I be when the red drifted away outside? Could it drift away inside? They'd given the consequences if I suicided. What would happen to my legacy, my family? The damned red, as if that would help me talking about my family. It's like a penal colony here with one person, and the drifting away is tempting. But I get better. I improve in slow gulps and long stretches of red walks. The only stress is wondering what to do when I go back. I wonder what my mom will say when I get home. Will she make my favorite cake? Anything, I'll say, other than red velvet. Then I'll look out the window, long for home.
That was wonderful, Alicia. Thank you so much for sharing that work with us. And I see hands raised, which is awesome. I want to invite any feelings, thoughts people have. Go right ahead. I think it's Eris who's got a hand up. Although I think I may have lost your audio somehow. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was wondering if Eris, because I think Eris might have something she wants to say about your work, but I don't know if I can hear her. Other folks? Let's see, maybe.
It was powerful.
Yeah, Eris, do we have any luck getting your audio back on?
I'm completely illiterate right now.
Huh. That's how it feels to descend late into the evening with poetry.
It's a weird way to descend, for sure.
Yeah, I was really struck, like, by just the way in which the sort of language that had happened. There was like this, language about being shot and this very visceral kind of stuff happening. But then the ending note totally, like the favorite cake gutted me completely. I had no idea that was going to happen. And then I was just like, oh my God, the way in which the sort of emotional valence switched up like that. And I think I'm just kind of reading what Eris is posting in the chat, and that it was so visceral and how it hit in that way. And we were wondering if the poems that you read tonight were available to read in a location, like if we could link them somewhere. Yeah.
The Uncanny one isn't online, but I'll link to the anthology. And the PTSD, the Starline one, is online, so I'll link to that. I was really lucky. It got editor's choice, one of the poems of that issue. So.
It's fantastic.
That was really cool. So,
well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome. And other folks' thoughts that they want to share?
Yeah. I like to punch a lot with the random little life things in the middle of mundanity. So it works.
I'm just really enjoying this. Thank you again so much, Tom, for bringing us all together.
Yeah, of course.
And
I
really enjoyed your reading of those poems too. You're a fantastic reader.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's one of my masks I can do. I don't speak so quote unquote normally. We don't use normal at school. I don't speak so normally, but I learned how to do the reading a long time ago. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's really awesome to hear, and it's one of, like we talked a little earlier, how exciting it is for me to hear like poems that have math and science in them, because I can share those with my students. And this is my first year not being a math teacher in the math department at my school, but being a special educator at my school and working with students. So I have a few students with ASD diagnoses, and when we have things at our school, like for example poetry out loud, where students have to memorize a poem and then recite it in front of their class, like helping teachers think about accommodations and ways to support students who are learning this, like learning the sort of literacies of public speaking and things like that, like to have models in the poetic community of people who are doing this work and reading their work and sharing their work out loud. It's just such an awesome resource to be able to share with students. And like, I just think that part of it is so great, like the dimension of representation, but also that's the dimension of like comfortability and like, yes, like people are doing this work and making it public, which is so cool.
I was a special ed teacher for 10 years, so thank you.
Hey, no way, that's awesome.
Yeah, I did history in high school, and then I did like general stuff in organization in middle school. Yeah, it's really good work. So I unfortunately had to go because I chose a position that was too tough for my diagnoses. I didn't even have the diagnosis at that point. That's part of the PTSD and all of that. So, I mean, it has nothing to do with the school. It's tough because the systems aren't set up for us and you can't make it so easily. I'm sorry, that's a real bummer. I don't mean that for the kids, but it's just good to know, like, to help them navigate when it's not open, as like right now, that to help them. It's not about being normal. It's just giving them the best boost they can, so that if they get in a tough situation, they know how to shift and they don't have to like grab on and try to like do their best job and burn themselves out. So it's just helping them know how to navigate getting themselves out if they can't handle it. So
yeah, that's amazing. And I just want to open it out to other folks if there's any other last words about the work that Alicia has shared with us, because we're almost at our last reader, which is kind of freaking me out.
Yeah, I just look forward to like finding all of these poems later and taking time to savor them and like find lines that like blew me away, but that escape me now. Like, because they're already emotionally indexed as an experience, but like Yeah, I want to read them. It's a different thing. Yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to, as part of sharing this link to the recording with everybody, try to compend some of the things that people have mentioned, like the Tarpaulin Sky link and these links to Alicia's poems and other places where we can find some of this amazing work. Because I'm reminded of Kate Killalea saying something like, "There's this weird way you're held hostage at a poetry reading because you just can hear it, like you can't like go back, your eye can't go backwards." And I kind of, it's a real like treat to kind of have that inflicted on you in a way, but I agree with Manuel that it'll be really cool to go back and see these. And again, I want to thank Alicia. That was Alicia Cole, who you can find on Twitter at @AColeWrites, ACOLEWRITES. And you can find Alicia as the editor of Priestess and Hierophant Press, which you can find at priestessandhierophant.com. And again, Alicia's chapbook, The Way We Swarmed, you can find from Dancing Girl Press, which is at dancinggirlpress.com. And also there's an art site that Alicia shared with us at Foundworks. You can find her as well at foundwork.art/artists/Alicia Cole, ALICIACOLE. So it's kind of with a heavy heart, or with an ambiguous one anyway, that I introduce our last reader of the evening in this very unique Performance Anxiety. It's been such a privilege to get to hear your poems and talk about them. And I'm really excited to talk about this last reader who's a returner to Performance Anxiety, Samuel J. Fox. Samuel J. Fox is a bisexual poet and essayist living in North Carolina. He is poetry editor at Bending Genres, LLC. Samuel is published in numerous journals and zines and has 2 chapbooks out in the world, one from Ghost City Press and one from 3 Drops Press. He tweets at Samuel J. Fox, SAMUELJFOX. So thank you so much for closing us out tonight, Sam. I'm really excited to hear these poems.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for coming. I've enjoyed listening, and I've been trying to. It's been a long day for me, so I'm trying to stay out of camera and all that kind of hoopla for me. But this first poem, I don't know if I've read this one here, but I'm going to read, and it's titled, "Hell is a Lantern Held Beneath the Chest." 1. Politics and punk rock is what the world comes down to, the patrons and the patronized. When it comes to love, we act the fool. When it comes to God, we think we know him well. You tell me hell is the most illuminated place. If the devil was not once God's right hand, how would we know of trust and betrayal, magic, and putting makeup on the dead? Between breaths, cigarette smoke like a hymn between us, we pass and lift our lips to enjoyable banter and suicide. Dear friend, dear saint of knife fights and shadow dancing, saint of ambient emo guitar swells, saint of broken hearts, racing on far from designer drugs, we are adamantian. No heart can break without first giving consent to the inevitable scar. 2. The devil's greatest trick isn't a trick at all. He loves us in our ruin because of his. Conversationless mornings spent aroused by some song we can't stop singing when we're drunk. Each day a hangover that won't stop repeating the same old slurry light. Dear friend, dear saint of the used and the users, dear saint enraged by the smear of bullshit this world keeps trying to fertilize and grow us in. We are unbreakable. If God was wrong to throw Satan from heaven, do you believe we would still have so much suffering to sing about? I'd give you heaven if I had it, but a poem must do. Language is the barbed wire we coax ourselves hurted by, and hell is a place so bright we will be able to see everything crystalline, our lives in amber tints of truth. 3. We are twin cities burning down at the same pace, both metropolises smoldering on the hills we were raised on. Love is a fire, not because it burns, but because it consumes. Do not speak of heaven now. Speak only in the language of this fire, of what we know. And then the last poem I'm going to read, since that was a longer poem, is going to be, it's called Babel. Tell me that the heart is like a tower falling slowly through an entire life, and I will show you my sleeve is dusty with rubble and debris. It was language that brought me here, prostrate before a throne of air and starlight. It was love that made me gasp for blood when it was gone. Tell me that the heart is a bad metaphor for love, because I will believe you. Whatever you say goes. When she left me sitting in silence, listening to the dial tone of my own blood in my ear, the whisper of white noise after her hanging up, I knew, like a man who had been cut off from a comfortable God, I was sitting in a life after life. I was sitting in a limbo I would blame myself for. The Tower of Babel fell on a Thursday morning at dusk with no warning. Just silence after the collateral damage of trying to reach for the unreachable. It starts with a word or a phrase becoming everything you'd never dare to know. Hatred comes easy. It takes a stiff spine like a lightning rod to take the brighter heat of love, which unfortunately is easy to say too. One day, when the world is red and flowing with flesh in the streets, we can look back and say we didn't love enough. Tell me that love is like a man laid spread eagle, face up and dying, eyes foggy like crystal orbs. And I can show you from where I fell. Thank you guys. I've had a really good time listening to y'all read, and it was great to hear everybody.
Thank you so much, Samuel, for sharing those poems. And I'm really excited. I just was like typing into the Skype chat, like all the bits that I loved so much. And so I just hit enter and I was like, wow, oh my God, there's so many of them. And people have lots of thoughts that I want to open the floor to. So please, what is Sam's Miltonic invocation making you feel right now?
The first line you quoted, Tom, is the first one that I thought of because it's very timely. Hell is the most illuminated place. I'm not sure if that's quoted or paraphrased, but I really enjoyed all the like apocalyptic imagery. It was really beautiful, and the devil loving you. It was just. Thank you.
Thank you. Part of that, there's a preface to that poem I didn't really get into, and that was that it was about a conversation I had with one of my best friends who I don't really speak to enough these days because distance, and there's 3 years and 300 miles of distance between us. And so we had a weird conversation about hell and God and Satan and if we believed in it or not. And that poem came out of it, as well as a kind of an ode to friendship towards him. So that's what that poem, to me, came out of. So I appreciate you appreciating it.
Wow, that's interesting. I mentioned like Middletonian. You were like directly pandering to me.
I'm losing the audio a little bit on you, Manuel, but I think you said something about the Milton piece or something like that. Did I get that right?
What's that?
I was just curious if you could say it, Dan. I'm not sure I can hear you super well, but I'm not sure if that's just me.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just saying that, like, you mentioned, like, Milton, and, like, to me, that's, like, just directly pandering to me, my tastes, because, Paradise Lost is, like, can't be topped. I mean, the imagery for me is just really evocative and profound, you know, being raised Catholic and everything. And, it's, I mean, in my opinion, the devil is like the greatest character, particularly in Paradise Lost. And I did some of that in my own work actually too, trying to sort of play on representations of the devil in pop culture and like also like in antiquated poetry. um, you know, sympathy for the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the line that I threw in the Skype chat where in the second poem or in the later poem it says "cut off from a comfortable God," because it made me think about how like I was going through actually at my parents' house some old books today, and like I made a pile of all like the Jesus books and put them in one place. And it was a very weird feeling for me like to do that, and I think like Coco mentioned. Having that sort of like crisis of faith moment, or coming like sort of the fact that whatever faith tradition one is raised in, where like there's a moment where it becomes real, like you kind of have these dark night of the soul conversations where you're like, what is at stake in these questions? And it was really cool to hear that informed the poem for you, like actually talking that through with somebody who you felt like had stakes in it too. I was wondering if you wanted to talk at all about that, like the friendship and how that shaped the poem that you shared with us.
You mean the first poem? Yeah. So I feel like for a lot of people, their faith is what, especially through the past, what dictates our lives and how we perceive the world. And for me and my friend Matt, who the poem is dedicated to, we always joked that we were nihilists, which I'm not a nihilist, but he definitely, he could trick you into believing he was. And so a character that made me think outside the box about what I thought I believed. And it wasn't so much he challenged me, it was that, I mean, because I don't really have a faith anymore, so to speak. I'm kind of like in between a pagan and a somewhat Christian-based faith. But I realize now that, you know, this is what dictates my work a lot of the time, is these allusions and metaphors that I keep coming back to in my poems, which is based off the Old Testament and the New Testament and other religious texts, and reading other authors who are writing similar in that vein.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that kind of like it's a couple of times like archaeology has kind of come up, like digging up some kind of version of your past or the way that these influences are playing in. And I just wanted to hear if other folks had any sort of other thoughts on the work that Samuel shared with us tonight, or other things that you're thinking, feeling, et cetera, et cetera. Noticing like the blankets have come out. We're all kind of like in snuggle mode. Maybe poetry mode is shifting slowly over to snuggle mode, and I'm feeling that.
I mean, you're fluid, you know. Like, I think we're all just kind of speechless, or I am at least. I don't know. Really great stuff tonight.
I really like the dial tone of blood in an ear. That was a really staying with me. So,
thank you.
That's a beautiful note on which to kind of begin to start moving towards wrapping up, which is like kind of shocking me because the recording is now at like over 90
almost
minutes.
2
and I'm like,
hours.
wow, we did it. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm like Sam gets the most patient award for being our last reader this evening. And again, if you want to find more of Samuel's work, including the chapbooks again from Ghost City Press and one from Three Drops Press, you can find him on Twitter at SamuelJFox, Samuel J. Fox. And again, those chaps are really like, please read them and check out Sam's work as poetry editor at Bending Genres LLC as well. And so as we kind of nestle into our various COVIDian situations, I just want to thank our readers again one more time for the amazing work that they shared with us tonight, the willingness to jump in and talk about one another's like brilliant stuff. And I am just like so in awe of that. I was also deeply impressed with how much, like, I don't know, science and math happened a lot tonight, like other things that I didn't expect were going to happen tonight. And just as sort of a quick sign off, I did the thing that I think Eris suggested in the chat by everybody grabbing the closest book to them physically. So I have this extremely short, almost haiku-esque poem that I want to share with you from Hilda Hilst, which from this book of Death, which was translated by Laura Cesarco-Eglin. And it's the third in a sequence of poems called In Front of You in Vanity. And this is just a very short poem, and I picked it because I was like, wow, there's so much math and science happening in all these poems. It's very short, it's 3 lines. and riddled with ivy, but only thought of in pure mathematics. And on that note, I want to draw us to a close tonight and thank you again for participating. Our next reading is going to be next Thursday, April 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hannah, who is with us, has agreed to read as one of our readers in the next event. And we're still looking for readers, as we always will be at this weekly basis while we're social distancing. So again, I cannot thank you all enough for being here, for your generous contributions in poems and in praise. And I really, really look forward to sharing this with as many folks as we can.